Assalamu alaikum, girls. The topic that we're doing today is William Wordsworth as a romantic poet. We've already discussed in detail what the romantic era was all about, or romanticism exactly kya hai aur uske kya key facets hain. Now, when we talk about William Wordsworth, he's known predominantly as a nature poet, but nature because इतना inherently important element है romantic poetry के अंदर that automatically he becomes representative of the romantic era also. So, when we talk of William Wordsworth, he tends to exhibit a lot of romantic characteristics. और उसके अंदर सबसे ज़्यादा है his treatment towards his poetry, जिसके अंदर almost all the key facets of romanticism are found. जो romantic movement थी बेटा of the early 19th century, it was generally considered to be a revolt, यानी कि almost एक बगावत थी against the classical tradition जो poetry के अंदर थी of the 18th century. Literature overall, not just poetry, but एक जो classic tradition थी of using difficult words, difficult themes और बहुत high and mighty characters को रख के जो literature लिखा जाता था, romanticism was a reaction to that and was completely opposite to that. और जो पॉजिटिव ट्रेंड्स रोमांटिसिज्म ने डाले इन द वर्ल्ड ऑफ लिटरेचर उसके अंदर जो वर्ड्सवर्थ है ही इज कंसिडर्ड टू बी वन ऑफ द पायनियर्स. His publication of lyrical ballads, which he wrote jointly, William Wordsworth wrote jointly with Samuel Coleridge, उसने trend set किया था of using poetry in the language that the common man can understand and which the characters are also from the common people और हर walk of और हर strata of society को represent कर रहे, especially the common man, was done with the coming of lyrical ballads in which simple language written for the common man was done. The first element that is found in Wordsworth's poetry that render him as a romantic poet is his sense of imagination. अगर हम 18th century poets, especially जो metaphysical poets हैं, उनके बारे में बात करें तो वो generally wit के ऊपर बहुत stress देते थे, wit, humor, which obviously metaphysical poets we've discussed in great detail, but जो romantic poets थे, उसके अंदर जो emphasis था वो imagination पे था. And that imagination was such in which everyday things were seen in a different perspective, in a strange light, in a new light. Like Wordsworth की एक poem है, very famous poem, which is known as the Intimation Ode. उसके अंदर it seems to him as to the child the earth and every common sight seems apparelled in celestial light. That means everything that he looks around, William Wordsworth in the poem, he feels कि जैसे बच्चे को हर नई चीज फैसिनेट करती है, इसी तरह विलियम वर्ड्स को भी इस पोएम के अंदर एवरीथिंग सीम्स टू बी फैसिनेटेड और लगता है जैसे हर चीज एक सेलेस्टियल, एक हेवनली लाइट के अंदर जो है वो इन्वेलप्ड है, रैप्ड है. And I quote from the Intimation Ode, there was a time when meadow, grove and stream, the earth and every common sight, to me did seem apparelled in celestial light. So here he's saying that how everything to him seems to be coated in celestial heavenly light, and there's such a newness to it, and that newness comes partly because he imagines it to be like that. And then again, that is a key facet of romantic poetry in which the poet infuses his imagination into everyday common things and lend it in a new way and represent it in a new way. अगर हम poem देखें Wordsworth की Tintin Abbey, in this again the poet sees the river and the stream, steep and lofty cliffs through his imaginative eye, and he was very enthusiastic at the joyful sound of the rolling river, where he says, "Once again do I behold those steep and lofty cliffs that on a wild secluded scene impress thoughts of more deep seclusion and connect the landscape with the quiet of the sky. So then again, Tintanabe mein, he's looking at the lofty cliffs and he's looking at the scene and he's sort of describing it with his own subjectivity. And it seems to him कि इस सिक्लूजन में इस अकेलेपन के अंदर जो सारा लैंडस्केप है or जो sky hai, it is all infused together. Now, it is his imagination that is rendering all the beauty to the horizon. There is nothing different about Tintin, but he presents it through his own eyes and his own imagination. Nature, again, and key facet of romanticism and predominantly found in Wordsworth poetry. Also, Wordsworth felt that nature has immense healing qualities. And nature, jo hai, it is predominantly found in him. And he felt that nature is very important for the growth of man, for his mind, for the growth of his heart. And it is nature itself and the love for nature that leads human beings to the love of other people and other mankind generally. And then this love for mankind leads one to the love of God, because when you look at nature and you see such perfection in it, you realize that the creator is absolute perfection also. And therefore, I quote what Wordsworth said about nature: never did betray the heart that loved her. That means nature has such healing qualities that kabhi dhoka nahi deti to anybody that truly is a devout follower of nature. Subjectivity, yani apna point of view, apni interpretation, is a key element of romantic poetry. Personal thoughts, feelings, etc. is something that romantic poetry ke andar bahut zyada we sort of find, and also in Wordsworth. Then again, like he says in his Intimation Ode, how everything around him is wrapped in a certain heavenly and celestial light, where he says that he can't see the celestial light anymore that he did see in his childhood. In the Intimation Ode, he says, "It is not now as it had been of yore, turn wheresoever I may, by night or day. The things which I have seen, I now can see no more." So then again, ये उसका Wordsworth's point of view है कि that special heavenly light जिसमें मैं चीजें देख सकता था at one point in time, I can't see it anymore now. This is his own interpretation, his own subjectivity, his own point of view that we see in Intimation Ode, a key facet, subjectivity being a key facet of romantic poetry, abundantly found in Wordsworth poetry also. Mysticism, spirituality, rohaniyat, जिसे हम कहते हैं, again, is something that is predominant in Wordsworth's poetry. He feels that there is a certain spiritual power जो हर object के अंदर, especially nature के अंदर, we sort of observe, whether it is the light of the setting sun, whether it is the rolling ocean, whether it is the mind of man, हर चीज के अंदर एक power है, एक sort of spiritual power hai that we find. And this is from Tintin, where he says, "The presence that disturbs me with the law of the elevated thought, whose dwelling is the light of setting suns, the rolling sun, the living air, the blue sky, and the mind of man." Tintin being a poem of William Wordsworth, very famous poem. Humanism, the love of man, is something that is abundantly found in romantic poetry, and that is again something that is also found in Wordsworth poetry. He was very inspired by the French Revolution, and like I mentioned in my previous lecture, romanticism का कि French Revolution ने romanticism के key elements को बहुत affect किया था, where the power of the common man was greatly talked about. So this is something that is also found in Wordsworth's poetry. And आप अगर different poems उसकी देखें तो common people, a young girl, for example, in his poem "We Are Seven," is a central character, and how she can't come to terms to the death of her two siblings is a topic in one of his poems. Then again, the leech gatherer. Now, Abab leech gatherer is a very sort of common character at that point in time in England, but that is somebody that a poem has been written about by Wordsworth. So love for man, and not men who are ranking high in society, but men who are the common masses, are a common topic in Wordsworth's poetry. Again, a key element of the Romantic era. Lyricism, there's a lot of poetic quality that is found in Wordsworth's poetry. And the best part about it is that this lyricism comes with no artificiality or superfluous language. It comes in simple diction, simple words, in poetic words that any human being can understand and common people can understand. And of course, that started off with his lyrical ballads and continued throughout his poetic journey. So, if we are to conclude, girls, we would say that Wordsworth was almost like a central character or a protagonist or the hero of the Romantic movement. And he did depict almost all the positive qualities and aspects of Romanticism, whether it had to do with imagination, whether it had to do with feeling, whether it had to do with emotion, whether it had to do with the depiction of human characters, whether it had to do with the depiction of human dignity, और whether it had to depict his love for nature. ये सारे key elements जो romantic movement के अंदर बहुत predominant थे, they were all found in Wordsworth's poems. Thank you so much, girls, and I hope you understand.